Hello, my beautiful Virgo family. I'm so happy to be sitting here with you doing our September reading for the Virgo family during Virgo season. I'm sitting outside, so there will be a breeze blowing through at times and maybe flies and birds floating by. There's a lot going on out here, but it is so nice to just be sitting here in nature to share these messages. I woke up so sensitive this morning, and there are just days when I wake up and I feel like all my antennas are up and I can feel everything, and there are days when I'm better at being with myself. And that actually ties into some of the messages that came up for me for this Virgo season, for the Virgo family. It kind of comes back to one of the main icons that comes with working with Virgo energy, which I'm sure all of you are aware, which is this wholeness in self, right? And not in that egotistical way, in that being able to be present here in the moment and know that you are enough and that everything you need is within you. There's nothing external that you need to be gaining, right? And that is one of those really beautiful lessons from Virgo energy that all of us in the world can grow and learn from. But when I sat down to feel through Virgo's energy this morning, I was feeling all sensitive. I was tapping in. I was looking at how there's all this energy moving through Virgo and then moving on into Libra, into your second house, and that full moon in your seventh house in Pisces this month, and a Mercury retrograde in your second house. And all this energy, once it moves into Libra, is going to be talking about or focusing on worth and value. And while that can often be translated as our possessions and the things we own and the things that we have around us, I think when I think of second house energy, I think of how we love ourselves, how whole we feel. And I was thinking about how Virgos also tend to be people who want to be everything for everyone. You want to take care of all the things. You want to be the master of the to-do list. You want to be the one that is responsible, taking care of all possible eventualities, answering every possible question. There's that mercurial influence, right? And that in doing that, what ends up happening is we break ourselves into these inscrutable shards in all the eventual paths, all the possible paths that could possibly pop up. And so this Virgo season, and as we hit the equinox and we move into Libra season, I think it's important for Virgos to come back to that sense of wholeness, not knowing that you don't need to be right for every single path, knowing that you don't need to have the answers for every single path, because it's very tempting to feel as though because you're smart, because you're capable, because you can come up with solutions, because you have those gifts, that you are responsible for sorting out the whole map of all these possible parallel worlds and everything. And I want to just take that pressure off of your shoulders and remind you that you are not responsible for all those eventual paths. You're going to get your answers much better in just letting yourself be that full, whole self in Virgo season. And I want to mention too, I think this is important at a time of rebirth, right? Virgo season is going to be a time of restart, rebirth. It's also, I feel like Virgo season, it ends with the equinox and we move into Libra season. But as we end that equinox, we shift the light, right? We shift out of, in the northern hemisphere, the lighter half of the year. And if you're in the southern, then the darker half of the year. But we shift out of something. And so this is a really important rebirth time for Virgos in general. And it's important that you don't feel you need to shatter yourself into a million pieces in order to do that rebirth and to start that new sun sign year. And 10 of Pentacles came out. So we're already starting with some really beautiful energy. And so I just want us to start this year feeling like during this Virgo season, we can be here now. We don't have to have every answer for this upcoming solar year. We don't need to know what's going to happen the darker half of the year. We don't need to micromanage all the possible pathways that could open up. We don't need to micromanage our spiritual practice. It is enough to be here now. And the Hierophant. All right, we got the earth energy strong today. And I just want to focus on that, because the energy this month is really interesting as a collective. The outer planets are retrograde, and next month we're going to see a lot of those outer planets go direct, and then we of course begin a Mercury retrograde this month in Libra, and the Mercury pre-shadow is going to be happening starting on September 6th. So we're going to be doing a lot of this introspection, but for me this is where the biggest growth happens. This is where the biggest, best answers come from. It's not a time of inaction. 9 of Wands, that Virgo life, you know, just wanting to guard, wanting to be on guard, wanting to be aware, wanting to be prepared. And Knight of Wands. I like this month a lot. I love these cards, and I do feel, Virgo, that part of you that wants to be on top of it and do it right and do it well. Admirable, because like I said, I ride this life with you. It's admirable. It's beautiful. However, you're going to be fine. What you're going to need is going to come to you. So you don't need to stretch yourself thin trying to account for every possibility. So let's talk through these cards, because they are beautiful. And I'm trying to set them so they don't get blown away in the wind out here. So let's start with 10 of Pentacles. This is pure gold. Working with 10 of Pentacles energy, when you get this message, remember that it's the long game, right? It's not about immediate results. It's not about being able to see the next 100 years. Even though you may be sensing that there are some big things, some big legacies that are getting built up, some big moments, some seeds getting planted that are really going to connect with you in the coming years. 10 of Pentacles is really about relaxing into knowing that there is a lot of beautiful things ahead, and that as you get more present here and now, and as you get more present in this Virgo season, and as you invest in nourishing yourself, nourishing your energy, this 10 of Pentacles, you're actually engaging with this long-range legacy energy, and you are supported. So that's just a gorgeous message. Now, that's followed up by another very earthy sign of the Hierophant. Hierophant is a very powerful energy, because this is about teaching energy and spiritual energy and our access to it. And where the Hierophant is kind of a symbol of like the old church, right? Like the old Catholic traditions, where you have kind of gatekeepers, you have these representatives who are the ones that will tell you what divine is going to tell you, right? But Hierophant has a very specific message, in that you need to step into your own empowerment within that and let yourself be connected to those messages that want to come through. You don't need an intermediary. You don't necessarily need some special person to tell you that you're okay, even though, ironically, I'm sitting here telling you you're okay. The Hierophant has you stepping into your own power within this. And so 10 of Pentacles and the Hierophant for me are like, if you've been undercutting your ability to be intuitive, to figure it out, to trust yourself, to be connected to divine, if you've been feeling a bit detached from that, this month it's telling me this is the perfect time, this Virgo season, to get reconnected and to really commit to that feeling of trust and that divine influence. And of course, we're going to have to address this 9 of Wands. Our good old friend, the 9 of Wands. And, you know, honestly, this makes me think about the message that came up when I was sitting with your energy before I sat down here today. Because I said, remember at the beginning, I said, you know, when we're trying to be in charge of every possible outcome, every possible way things could go, we split ourselves into these inscrutable little shards. We're no longer that whole self in trust. And 9 of Wands to me is that energy. It's that energy of wanting to be prepared, wanting to be on guard, wanting to be aware of all the things that could go wrong, of scary things that could go wrong, all the things that feel like they may bonk you on the head when you're not looking, when you're not being vigilant. And so when this card shows up, it's always a reminder just to witness that part of yourself that is on guard, that is wanting to shatter into all those different pieces in order to tend to each possible terrible thing or scary thing or unimaginable thing that could happen. And to remember, and it's okay to witness that part of ourselves and then not let it take the driver's seat, because once again, you are surrounded by divine energy this month. You are surrounded by tools and things that want to help you. So this Nine of Wands is a mirage. It's an illusion. It's this card often speaks too of trauma, of PTSD. This is a warrior who's already been injured and is terrified. And, obviously, if you have something like that, it's great to get help, reach out to your community, to your therapist, all of that. But it's about acting via an old traumatic experience, right? And so we don't want to base our lives off of that. Because here's the thing, we've also got Knight of Wands. Our dear friend, the Knight of Wands, charging in. Now this guy is very playful, very lighthearted, and sometimes gets the reputation of being kind of a fling, a not very serious partner that comes and goes and shows up and disappears. And I don't know, maybe some of you'll experience that, but I don't tend to read cards that way. I'm not really interested in replicating that. The Knight of Wands' beautiful aspects are that he goes for it. He tries stuff out. He doesn't take things too seriously. He doesn't hold things too heavily. He's not trying to be perfect. He's not trying to control it all. He's just going to show up and try and light something on fire in a healthy way, I guess. So what I see here is you may feel a little nervous to trust. You may feel a little nervous to trust yourself, trust the outcome, trust this next solar year, trust that you're going to have your creative spark back, or that you're allowed to just be creative and playful and fun and light. You may find that it's very hard to let yourself be, but this Knight of Wands at the end is telling me that by the end of this month, and as we get into Libra season, and as we get into this Mercury retrograde, this is actually a time coming up for you to play and to explore and to go for it. There is going to be wind at your back. Yeah, Knight of Wands also makes me think of speed and breakthroughs and things happening. Wands energy is about action and things moving in the world, in the physical world, spiritual becoming physical. And that's what the fire energy is all about. And the Knight of Wands is telling me that there is going to be movement moving through in the coming weeks. And that movement is actually tied to a much bigger, longer legacy. There is a connection here, not just with this season of life, but with a huge, big cycle, several years coming up that you're tapping into during this Virgo season. But this is what I will say. If you want to hear that message, and if you want to connect to that bigger legacy and to connect to your bigger soul self, you're going to want to just be here now and practice into that sense of trust. You may not have the to-do list figured out. You may not have the plan of action figured out for every eventuality. You may not know exactly what you're going to need to do in 6 or 7 months. That's okay. You don't need to worry about that. That's not the requirement. You're actually going to hear all of this information so much better in practicing trust and coming back home to yourself in this Virgo season. So just practice, almost kind of like, when horses that are pulling carriages, they put blinders here because, their horses are prey animals and they tend to want to look out for themselves. So they're constantly looking out for dangers and threats. And I don't know, maybe this is a terrible, terrible example, but I just think about how when those blinders on, those horses can just focus on moving forward and putting one foot in front of the other. And I don't necessarily want us to blind ourselves, but we can't get scared by all the things happening on the sidewalks around us, right? We have to somehow find safety within ourselves, somehow find our own fuel, our own motivation from within ourselves, because no one else is going to offer it to us. And you have all this goodness inside just waiting for some connection, some recognition. And I can use this message for sure. Like I said, I just woke up this morning so sensitive. I hope I have been coherent in this message. Some months, like when I did the August readings, I was feeling so clear and so well cared for, and I'd been really good in my practices. And then this summer ended up being a really intense personal summer with family stuff and with shifting gears and with clearing out old archives and all sorts of stuff. And I've kind of gone through this whole process, and I came into the September readings feeling very sensitive. And I'm thinking about this idea of just practicing into the trust and being home with myself. And when I think about doing that, I realize I can hear better immediately, almost immediately. I can hear my soul better. I can hear the divine better. And I am no longer distracted by all the things I feel like I need to be taking care of. So I will be talking actually more about that personal journey over on my Patreon if you haven't joined me over there, and also offering a lot of extra support during this upcoming Mercury retrograde. Mercury retrogrades and air signs are always an interesting journey through the cosmos. And we just have a really good time there. You get to know me a little bit better, so I'd love to see you there. I'd love to see you here, where we hang out every month for the full moons, for the readings, for coffees and chats. I would love to see you, so like and subscribe. And you can find me on Instagram and my website, so I'll leave all those links below. I love you, Virgos. Take such good care of yourselves, and I will talk to you very, very soon.